We want to prepare our MyPad World app for the iPad for user preference settings. With MyPad World, just like with the iPhone app My World, the idea is to enable the user to enter his or her own words for the falling words animation, as well as to change the speed of the animation. Now, most people have spent enough time around computers that they know what I mean when I throw the term preferences and settings. On your desktop, you can set preferences at the system level for things like security, screensavers, printing, file sharing, just to name a few. You can also set preferences or settings for applications. You can set all sorts of preferences in Xcode, not to mention all those preferences in your browser and word processing programs. And I use the term preferences and settings interchangeably, as they're often used in iPhone and iPad apps. You can use preference settings in your app and have them created or saved within the app. But you can also use the supplied settings app to display and set your app-specific preferences. Whatever separate setting features you come up with has to function within the framework of the settings app. In effect, the settings app makes you color within the lines. And so you have a choice, in a sense, between using the settings app or doing it in-app. If you have preference settings that are typically configured once and then rarely changed, you should probably leave the task of setting preferences to the settings app. On an iPad, this would apply to things like enabling and disabling Wi-Fi access, or setting wallpaper displays, setting up mail accounts, any other preference settings that would be set and then left in place for a while. But if you have preference settings that the user might want to change regularly, you would consider having users set the options themselves inside the app. iBooks is a good example of having the settings app do everything for you. Preferences that are configured once and rarely changed in iBooks, such as the options to sync bookmarks or turn on full justification, they're placed in the settings app, as you can see. At the bottom of the list of settings for the iPad itself and for the built-in apps, such as Safari and iPod and Video, you then see the apps that are third-party apps, such as Beat the Traffic, Bento, Friendly, GarageBand, and of course iBooks. And that doesn't mean everything in iBooks is in the settings app. Some of the options you might want to change on the fly, such as brightness and font size, are in the app itself. But Flipboard, on the other hand, puts all of its settings in a modal view on top of the main view, as you can see on the right. Here you can change things like you can show status updates, hidden contributors, and so on. You can change your Facebook and Twitter accounts, etc. Now with MyPad World, the idea is to change settings on the fly whenever you feel like it, so it makes more sense to set up preferences from inside the app because they're changed frequently. However, we'll probably do it both ways just to show you how it's done. Now we've already put in code to prepare our user preferences. If we take a look at the MyPad World View Controller header file in the MyPad World Xcode project right here, you'll see that we've already added our UI image for falling image, our NS string for falling words, and our double for speed. And here, with the settings method that we've declared, we've set up the property declarations for speed, for image view, and for falling words. Now, of course, falling image is the image that contains the text string in falling words, and it will flow down the display or animated display according to the value in speed. With this IB action settings declaration, later we're going to use Interface Builder to specify the fact that when the user taps the Light Info button, the target is going to be the MyPad World controller object, and the method will be to invoke settings. And that's this method here. Now, these property declarations declare that there are accessor methods that the compiler has to create. And as you see in MyPad World View Controller implementation file, in the very top here, we have already put in the synthesized statements for speed, image view, and falling words. And the synthesized statements tell the compiler to actually create these accessor methods. So that means we can access these properties, speed and falling words in particular, from outside of this object. And that's what we need to be able to do. Now, to save and read the settings in the app, we can use a built-in, easy-to-use class that lets you read and set user preference settings from your app. It's called NSUserDefaults. The class is also used by the settings app that comes with your iPad, so it's the right one to use. We use it to read and store preference data to a default database using a key value, just as you would access keyed data from an NS dictionary. Now, as you recall with the iPhone app, we needed to add these keys into a constants.h file. And the keys we wanted to use were K words of wisdom for the falling words, replacement text, K speed for the animation speed, and K max speed for the maximum speed possible. Now, I've already shown you how to create a new constants.h file in which you select the project name here. You use the File menu, specify New File, choose Other, and then choose Empty File. And then we typed the constants into it. But since we've already done this for the iPhone app, let's cancel this. File, open another project, and the project will be the My World project right here. Let's open My World, and here we have constants.h. So we can choose that, and we can simply copy the 3 keys that we want. We're not going to use number of pages, which is used in the iPhone app. And we can simply copy them, close this project, and now when we do our File, New File, as we said before, and choose Other and Empty, now that we can do that, we'll be able to just paste right into the empty file. But first, we'll create the empty file, click Next, and we're saving it in MyPadWorld, in the group MyPadWorld, adding to the target MyPadWorld, and we're calling it constants.h and saving it. Now, clicking up here at the top in the editor, we can choose Paste, and we have our constants. Now, having a constants.h file is great, but we have to let MyPadWorld View Controller know what to do with it, and we're going to do that next. It may seem like starting at the end and working backwards, but it makes sense to show the code in MyPadWorld that uses these settings before we can then show how to enable the user to change and save the settings. Now, after copying and pasting, we of course want to make sure that we do a save so that we save the constants file. So now we've prepared the app with our constants for our preferences.